Hello, friends. Jet Splash is with you. I want to tell you that the third part of the 67th series really lived up to all my expectations. This is exactly the TV Man Titan we expected, but there was much more to this legendary return. Today, you will find out what TV Man Titan said to the scientist and what all his phrases generally meant, whether the scientist was real or a fake. And will there be a fourth part of episode 67? Yes, this is crazy, but Dafook said so. To avoid missing out, watch to the end. Dafook decided to show the release of the last part of the 67th series in a very interesting way. For the first time in the history of SKIBIDI toilets, when the series was still in the example, an inscription was noticed on the picture of the video. If you look closely, you can see that it says, "How do you think you are winning?" That is, even before the start of the part itself, it already became clear that the toilets would have problems. It was already written in the description that everyone has their own weaknesses. Let's move on to the analysis of the part itself. The beginning of the episode is repeated, as it is a continuation of the same 67th episode. Cameraman Titan begins to cut himself, and then suddenly he is saved by Speaker Man Titan. If you pay attention, at the end of the second part we can clearly see that at the moment when Titan is already on fire, there is not even a hint that someone will come to the rescue. And here in the new third part, the Cameraman Titan hasn't even lit up yet, and the Speaker Man Titan is already here. It turns out that at the end of the second part, he deliberately did not show us Speaker Man Titan and cut it out completely. After which, Cameraman Titan accidentally hits Speaker Man Titan with his saw when he wants to help him, but he pushes him away with his second hand in order to finish his job and kill himself. At the same time, the speaker takes out his knife and decides to cut off his hand, which actually helps. A scientist, when he understands that he needs to change tactics, turns on the purple light of the screen, which, unlike red, gives the command not to kill himself, but to kill his own people. Speaker Man Titan understands that he needs to break the screen as quickly as possible so as not to fight with his friend, and therefore has already put a knife in his speaker in order to shoot. Let me remind you that we saw the same thing in episode 61, when we were first shown a female speaker. However, G-Man prevented this with his lasers. The blow was so strong that Speaker Man Titan's right speaker fell off. He was about to answer, but then Cameraman Titan, under hypnosis, begins to fight and puts his foot on him. After which, our cameraman makes an unsuccessful shot at the scientist's screen. It is precisely because we have a lens that this hypnosis does not work on us, and the scientist successfully removed the Titan lens before turning on the screen. But here a logical question arises. Why then didn't Speaker Man Titan become as aggressive as Cameraman Titan? Speaker men have speakers that cannot pick up colors, and most likely they navigate in space by sound waves. Then the long-awaited event occurs. First, TV Man Titan breaks the scientist's monitor. It's already clear from the scientist's face that this was unexpected and they didn't predict it. Then we see the tired Titans. After hypnosis cameraman, the Titan falls, which means that he has very little energy after everything that happened to him in these couple of episodes. And of course, we are shown smoke and suddenly lightning, which means great energy. When G-Man saw the scientist's broken TV and then also saw this huge fog, he realized that he needed to escape using his old tactics. As I said in the previous video, he will escape from the battle with the help of his brand new boosters, which we saw in this part. After all, he already did this at 57, so it's not surprising. This is yet another confirmation that this is a real G-Man. At the same time, the scientist decides to fight. Firstly, because he is not a real scientist. On his miniguns to the right of his head, you can see the number 2. And it turns out that this number was also visible in the previous second part. However, this does not mean that this is a fake version. Let's take a look at the new Titan for now, which has improved a lot since its last appearance. Firstly, you can immediately notice his sword. It is very huge. This sword is an extension of his hand, because this sword will light up in the same color as the core and the energy it receives. Perhaps this is not his only trump card. I'm sure he will have other weapons. When TV Man Titan appears, he says the phrase, "You and I, here now." Then he says, "I'll harm you." Then, with 2 swings of his hand, He chops off the scientist's hands at the root. And after a red glow, when he is already barely alive and trembling, TV Man Titan says, "Still alive." He sees that the scientist is still moving, and therefore decides to finish him off with his sword, and then fry him with his core. The scientist's head is like a donut with a hole in the head. We don't have to worry. He's most likely not real and will return in future episodes. Let me remind you that in episode 60 we saw him with a normal eye, but it was in episode 67 that he appears with a red eye, and even with number 2 on his guns. But when we see his insides, there is no hint of either a skull or a fake skibidist, as was the case with G-Man in episode 65. And it's worth mentioning that he was constantly shaking, even after very severe injuries. If we pay attention, he is all made of metal and wires. The only thing that resembles a normal SKIBIDI toilet is his skin, as you can see blood. However, for example, with the fake Jimin, we have already made sure that toilets can perfectly copy the skin, and it is difficult to distinguish it from the real one. I don't think this is a trap. They didn't even know that they would meet TV Man Titan. The real scientist is still alive and remains small and sizey. And what we see after the 60th episode are his clones and numbered ones. At the moment, there were only 2 of them, the first version with a regular eye, and the second version, a more improved one with a red eye. Most likely, these are only the first samples of the scientist to perfect his technology and make such clones in batches. Just imagine that there will be 10 such huge scientists in the future. But in reality, it's unlikely. Most likely, he won't make many clones, but will try to pump a couple of them to the maximum. Well, after all this, TV Man Titan looked at the scientist and realized that he was somehow unreal, and said, "It's on." This could mean that they are creating clones, or that revenge has begun. He will kill everyone from the SKIBIDI toilet that comes his way, and no one will be able to stop him. Although, of course, we understand that with SKIBIDI, toilets will not just give up and will come up with something, because they have huge potential. At least we have not yet seen the full power of the improved G-Man. And we have not yet been shown all the scientists' technologies, which I am sure, in addition to clones, have other hidden functions. Now let's talk about the 4th part of episode 67. Yes, most likely this is true, and we will see it in the light. How do I know this? Firstly, Dafook himself wrote to one popular YouTuber that he was going to release part 4. Secondly, Dafook went to the stream of a popular YouTuber and wrote there that part 3 is not the end of episode 67. That sounds interesting. In fact, I don't know what we can see in part 4, but I'm already looking forward to it.